Alyssa Sherry loves to sing a song. And she's one of those folks who likes all of us on social media to look at her. Well, her interesting self-portraits, that is. But it's not her voice that's the focus of this family injustice investigation. It's the song she's singing that's destroying so many damn lives across Texas. When Sherry's not on stage at a place like the famous Antone's in Austin, she takes the stage in a family courtroom, a forensic psychologist with enormous power to decide who gets custody of an innocent child in the middle of a fight between their mom and their dad.
I can't believe I have to know you forever!
You're fucking insane!
And Sherry doesn't believe in equal parenting, even testifying at the state capitol against it.
They did this to themselves. I don't make this shit up.
You may say that, Dr. Sherry, but that's exactly what your victims say you do.
It's almost like Dr. Sherry enjoys torturing one of the parents.
She's always putting the kids with the wrong parent.
It's almost like, is she functioning on a different planet?
The way she attacked me and my family is so out of this world that it's almost unbelievable.
She even sided with Alex Jones in his custody fight.
I'm gonna be honest with you, I'm kind of retarded.
You get the picture.
When they read the verdict, I felt my body shut down. I didn't even cry. I was in shock.
Lauren Walker's parental rights to see her 5-year-old daughter were permanently stripped away 6 long years ago.
Dr. Sherry diagnosed me with borderline personality disorder, histrionic, narcissistic, and I have never been diagnosed with anything in my entire life.
Lauren freely admits that both she and her ex both smoke marijuana.
Smoking the reefer.
But he's the one that got convicted of physically attacking her.
He broke my nose. I have a brain injury, traumatic brain injury from blunt force trauma to my head.
But thanks to Dr. Sherry, he got full custody of their daughter. And Lauren, she was permanently removed from Callie's life.
I have saved every single toy, every piece of clothing. That is my way of, I guess, holding on to her still.
4 years I haven't heard the sound of my son's voice.
Cindy Shabolts lost her parental rights to her teenage son.
I took him all over the world to see things, and just, we got along. There was no drugs in my case. There was no CPS.
After Cindy's world came crashing down, she began to learn about a lot of other parents' nightmares. She compiled this list of the victims, and she noticed a pattern.
I think a lot of times it's either men or the person with the money.
My family, my son, and myself have personally been affected and hurt by Dr. Sherry.
19 mothers and fathers went before the state panel that gives Dr. Sherry her license to rip families apart, pouring their heart out.
And since then, I have not held my son, who I love with all of my heart, for over a year. And I just ask that y'all just do something.
Lynn Parker is a career cop. He's now married to a woman who lost her rights to all 3 of her children, thanks to Dr. Sherry.
Sherry had never met my wife. Sherry never met the children.
I have never, ever been disciplined by my board. Every single complaint that those people have filed against me was dismissed because it was frivolous. The other parent in every single one of these cases is grateful as hell.
He's just a wonderful little boy. He's 8 years old now.
Austin child psychiatrist David O'Connor learned too late about the complaints against Dr. Sherry. Because of her, he only gets to see his own son 2 hours every 2 weeks, a visit supervised by a stranger.
It's really, really important that every child, son or daughter, has both parents in their life.
This well-respected doctor has been fighting for equal parenting for his own son for years. 5 years ago, Dr. O'Connor went back to court to seek shared custody. That legal battle is still underway. That's too long. But a couple of years ago, the mother went to the Williamson County Courthouse. She obviously came to the right place for what is sadly another growing racket in a family court system full of them.
Anybody can say whatever they want. I can completely make stuff up. And if I go down to the court, 9 times out of 10, they're going to grant it because the judge doesn't know. According
to the Texas Office of Court Administration, Williamson County hands out more protective orders than any county court in the state. And Attorney Marshall Thompson, the lawyer on the other side of the O'Connor case, gets a lot of them, especially in Judge John McMaster's court. It's no longer a secret that some parents are using the protective order system as a weapon to get final custody.
To do the protective order as part of your case, it gives you more leverage in negotiating settlement.
David wasn't even initially warned it was happening, so he could defend himself.
One of the principles our country's founded on, the ability of due process, the ability to confront your accuser, the ability to defend yourself.
The mom and her lawyer had gotten a sworn affidavit from, you guessed it, Dr. Sherry. One of the big complaints against O'Connor, he was going to his son's events to watch him play. Boy, that's a crime.
Go from one day from seeing my son on a regular basis to suddenly not seeing him based upon false reports to get a protective order.
She knows what she's doing. She's not incompetent, so it's either a mental illness, addiction, or corruption.
And that's not a parent who's been on the wrong side of Dr. Sherry's rulings. That's Dr. Brooks McKenzie, an expert at assessing a psychological evaluation and also the relationship between a parent and a child. McKenzie says Sherry failed to do that.
If Alicia Sherry were to go down for what she actually did, there are dozens, if not hundreds of other cases she's worked on where she's likely done the exact same thing. So every one of them comes into question, and every single attorney who's repeatedly used her, and I bet you're going to find a handful that use her all the time.
Somebody like Brooks McKenzie is a freaking joke.
It's nice to see all these doctors getting along so famously. Quoting, Dr. Sherry's evaluation in this case was likely tainted by a prohibited conflict of interest and exploitation of the parties. That's what a second expert brought in by David O'Connor said, Dr. Joanne Murphy, who reported Dr. Sherry had watched David O'Connor and his son at home together, but just didn't bother to mention it in her report.
I'm a human being. Of course, there are going to be errors, but if I am so off base and I am so wrong, these people have their day in court.
Boy, we know just how fair our Texas family court system seems to be.
Don't you start questioning whether or not you really know what you're doing. There's so many people that say you don't.
Don't you understand that on the other side of those cases are parents that say, I saved their children?
I've lost track of how many state agencies are not protecting the public. I've been investigating family courts for more than a dozen years. And let me tell you something, it's all screwed up. The ethics, the delays, the money, it's all got to change.
And they're raping people financially in the family courts. And I am positive that they all know each other, the lawyers, the attorneys, the psychologists. It's a very small group. They run together and they are literally funding each other's college funds for their kids.
Their kids, not the kids who paid the price for losing a parent who was never convicted of hurting them physically or sexually.
I'm grateful that he has his dad, in some form or fashion. With the visits itself, as short and infrequent as they are, we do as much as possible.
I hope Dr. O'Connor gets justice. Because if he gets justice, a lot of people on the other side would be going to jail for intentionally committing fraud. And actually, I believe everyone on the other side, including Alicia Sherry, should be charged with child abuse. If no child comes out of this better off, except for those that really were abused, which is a very small percentage. And now we have broken children doing things as broken adults. We wonder how we got here, but everybody got paid, so it doesn't matter.
Dr. Sherry's YouTube music video ends with that fear and loathing quote from Hunter Thompson. The music business is a cruel and shallow money trench where thieves and pimps run free and good men die like dogs. There's also a negative side.
What's next?
Actually, Dr. Sherry, we've been exposing a big money trench full of thieves too. It's called family law.
It's corrupt. It's corrupt from the very beginning.